The Berenstain Bears and Too Much Teasing. Brother and Sister Bear agreed about the important things in life. They agreed that Christmas was the best holiday. They agreed that no school was better than school. They agreed that sweet potatoes were better than mashed potatoes. But there were some things they didn't agree on. Brother's favorite colors were red and blue. Sister's favorite colors were pink and more pink. Brother's favorite ice cream flavor was chocolate. Sister's was pistachio. Pistachio, yuck! Brother liked spooky movies. Sister hated spooky movies. Something else they didn't agree on was teasing. Brother liked teasing. He did it all the time. He thought it was fun. Sister did not like teasing. She thought it was mean and nasty. "Mama, brother's teasing me again." "Aw, gee, I was just having a little fun." Mama talked to brother about teasing and how it wasn't such a good idea. She talked to sister about not being so sensitive. Papa thought that too much fuss was being made about it all. "Teasing is just part of life. Isn't that right, ookums snookums?" he said, tickling Mama under the chin. "You know I don't like to be called that," said Mama. "Nor do I like to be tickled under the chin." Brother Bear found out that both Mama and Papa were right. Teasing wasn't such a good idea, and it was part of life. He found it out in a way he did not enjoy. One day at Bear Country School, something a little unusual happened. "Mr. Honeycomb wants to see you in his office, Brother Bear," his teacher said. The class was abuzz. What had Brother done? Why did Mr. Honeycomb, the principal, want to see Brother in his office? Brother Bear was worried, but he needn't have been. "Brother Bear," said Mr. Honeycomb, "I need a special messenger to carry messages to the different classrooms. Both your marks and your behavior have been excellent. I've chosen you to be my special messenger. Report to me at the start of school each day, and I will give you the messages you are to deliver. You may go back to class now." As you might guess, word about Brother's special job got around fast. Many cubs were a little jealous of Brother. Some cubs were a lot jealous. Too Tall Grizzly and his gang were the most jealous. It wasn't long before Brother Bear, the teaser, began to get teased. He got teased in class. "Brother, brother, teacher's pet. Now he is the principal's pet." He got teased in the schoolyard. "Brother, brother is so good. He does everything he should." He got teased on the school bus. "Brother, brother is so sweet. The sweetest cub you'll ever meet." He didn't like it. He didn't like it one bit. "Now you know what it's like to get teased," said Sister. Brother didn't say anything. There wasn't much he could say. All the things that Brother, the teaser, had said about teasing were now being said to him. "It's all in fun. Just ignore them. Don't be so sensitive." He got so angry that he was almost going to fight Too Tall and his gang, even though they were bigger than he was. But if he did that, he would lose his special job and just be in worse trouble. "Oh," he said one morning, "I have a stomach ache. I don't think I can go to school today." "Perhaps you have the 24-hour virus," said Mama. "Sister, will you please get the thermometer?" "Yes, Mama," said Sister. "But I don't think Brother has the 24 virus, or the 48-hour virus, or the 72-hour virus. I think what Brother has is the teasing virus." Said Mama, taking the thermometer from his mouth. "Temperature's normal. Finish your breakfast, cubs. The school bus will be here any minute." As the bus got closer and closer to the school, Brother got more and more worried. He knew exactly what was waiting for him. Too Tall and the gang would tease him in the hall, in the auditorium, and in the lunchroom. But he was wrong. He was wrong because something wonderful had happened. There was a new cub at Bear Country School. a big, oversized cub with hay in his fur and big, baggy overalls with patches. His name was Milton Chubb. He wore little round glasses and a little smile on his big, round face. "Wow," thought Brother, "what a relief." Tootal and his gang were looking at Milton the way a wolf looks at a plump chicken. Brother just knew they would tease the new cub. If they did, he thought, maybe, just maybe, they'll forget about teasing me. That's exactly what happened. They teased Milton on their soccer field when he kicked the ball into the wrong goal and scored for the other side. "Massive Milton is his name. Soccer's not his game." They teased him on the baseball field when he missed a fly ball. "He says his name is Milton Chubb, but we call him Flub-a-Dub." They teased him on the basketball court when he dribbled the ball off his foot. "Milton, Milton, watch him go. Watch him dribble off his toe." "Hey, Milton," said Tootal, "what is your game? Is it Tiddlywinks? Or hopscotch? Or..." That's when Brother Bear forgot about being happy that he wasn't the one being teased. He stuck up for the new cub. "Tootal," he said, "why don't you leave him alone? He's not bothering you." "Well, la-de-la," said Tootal. "The principal's pet is sticking up for Massive Milton." "Come on, Milton," said Brother. "Let's get away from these teasers. Where do you live?" "On Farmer Ben's farm," he said. "My mom and dad are Farmer Ben's new hired bears." "Hey," said Brother, "that means we're neighbors. I live in the big treehouse just down the road." That day after school, Brother and Sister Bear visited Milton on Farmer Ben's farm. Milton may not have known much about soccer, baseball, and basketball, but he knew quite a bit about farming. He was very good at pitching hay. That's why he always had some in his fur. He was such a good milker that he could squirt some milk right into the barn cat's mouth. And he knew how to feed a sugar cube to a horse without getting his fingers bitten. "Milton," said Brother, "you don't play soccer, baseball, or basketball. What is your game?" "Wrastlin'," said Milton. "Wrastlin'?" said Sister. "Oh, you mean wrestling." Just then, one of Farmer Ben's pigs got out of the pig pen. "Excuse me," said Milton. The pig never had a chance. Milton just sort of fell on him. Then he wrestled him back into the pen. Thought Brother. The next morning, the principal's special messenger took a message to the gym and gave it to the coach. But the message wasn't from the principal. Said the coach when he read it. When the Cubs came to gym class later that day, they were surprised to see that Milton was already there. He was dressed in wrestling tights, and the coach held several more pairs. "Cubs," announced the coach, "we are going to organize a wrestling team. Perhaps later we will join the Bear Country's Interscholastic Wrestling League. Tootal, you and the gang get into these tights. Let's see what you can do against Milton." "Do you have a favorite hold, Milton?" he asked while Tootal and the gang got ready. "Yes," said Milton. "It's called the pancake." "Ready, wrestle," said the coach. Tootal came at Milton fast and low, but it really didn't matter. Milton just sort of fell on him. "Oof," said Tootal. Milton made short work of the rest of the gang too. There were 3 pancakes followed by 3 oofs. "Oof, oof, oof." Bear Country School joined the wrestling league. The team did pretty well, especially Milton, who won all his matches. Brother and sister came to all the matches and led the cheering. "Massive Milton is his name. Wrestling, wrestling is his game. Yeah, Milton, Milton, Milton." Brother and sister still agree about the important things in life. Things like holidays, school, and potatoes. But now there was one thing more they agree about: teasing. They agreed that it is still part of life, but it really isn't a very good idea. The Berenstain Bears and the Truth. It was a lazy sort of day in Bear Country. The air was so still that the leaves on the big treehouse where the bear family lived were hardly rustling. Except in the beehive, where the bees were always busy, nothing much seemed to be happening. It was a sort of day that sometimes leads to mischief. Brother was holding a soccer ball. He'd become interested in soccer and had been outside practicing free kicks. Sister was relaxing in an easy chair, thinking about what to do next. Neither Papa nor Mama Bear was around. Papa was in his shop working on some furniture, and Mama was out shopping. "I know what," said Sister. "Let's go gather some wild blackberries." Brother thought about that. "No," he said. "Wild blackberries have too many thorns. And besides, the seeds get stuck in your teeth." "Well, then," said Sister, "let's go out and twist each other up on the swings and see who gets the dizziest." Brother thought about that. "No," he said, "that's silly. And besides, we did that yesterday." Sister became irritated and impatient with her brother. "My goodness," she complained. "You don't want to do anything. All you want to do is sit there and hug that soccer ball. I think you must be in love with that soccer ball." "I am not," protested Brother. "But I'll tell you something. I bet I can dribble this ball past you." Brother was a pretty good soccer player and a very good dribbler, but so was Sister. The only one who saw what happened next, beside the cubs, was a mockingbird who was perched on a twig outside by an open window. Brother faced Sister. The ball was on the floor between them. First, Brother moved the ball with his right foot, then with his left, trying to trick Sister out of position. Then, quick as a flash, he gave the ball a sharp kick with his right. It almost worked, but Sister was fast too. She reached out with her knee and blocked the ball, which bounced against a bookshelf, against a chair, against a footstool, and into Mama's most favorite lamp, which fell to the floor with a crash. The mockingbird let out a screech and got out of there as fast as its wings could carry it. As it flew away, it saw Mama Bear returning from the marketplace. Now, the bear family had some house rules just as any family has. One was no honey eating in bed. Another was no tracking mud on the clean floors. And another was no ball playing in the house. What to do? Brother looked at Sister. Sister looked at Brother. They both looked at the broken lamp, and they both listened in horror as Mama came up the front steps and into the house. All Brother had time to do before Mama came into the room was roll the ball behind Papa's chair. "My lamp," said Mama. "My best lamp. What happened?" she asked, looking into her cub's eyes. "Tell me about it." The cubs looked into Mama's eyes, then looked at each other, and then they began to tell one of the biggest whoopers that had ever been told in Bear Country. "It was a bird," began Brother. "Yes," added Sister, "a big purple bird with yellow feet." "And green wingtips," added Brother. "And funny-looking red feathers sticking out of its head," said Sister, as a finishing touch. As most lies do, the purple bird whooper got bigger and bigger and bigger. "Yes," continued the cubs, "and it flew in that window, zoomed around the room, and knocked over the lamp." As Mama Bear was looking at the broken lamp with a sad expression on her face, Papa Bear came in from his shop. The cubs began to tell him the story of the big bird that flew in the window and broke the lamp. It was harder to tell the second time. For one thing, they couldn't quite remember how they had told it the first time. "You've got me confused," said Papa. "Was it a purple bird with green wingtips and yellow feet? Or a yellow bird with purple wingtips and green feet? Or was it a white bird with black spots, like that soccer ball behind my easy chair?" But the thing that really made it hard the second time was how very sad Mama looked as she picked up the pieces of the broken lamp. "Mama, we're really sorry about the lamp," said Brother. "Oh, yes," said Sister, picking up the last piece and putting it in the dustpan. "Oh," said Mama, I'm not worried about the lamp. We can always get another lamp, or we can glue this one back together. What I'm sad about is that the thought that maybe, just maybe, my cubs, whom I've always trusted, aren't telling me the truth. And trust is not something you can put back together again." Both cubs started to talk at once. "It wasn't a bird," said sister. "It was a soccer ball, and it was all my fault," shouted brother. "It was just as much my fault," shouted sister. But they were both shouted down by the phone, which rang loudly. It was Grizzly Gran inviting the bear family for a Sunday visit. "Hello, Gran," said Mama. "Oh, everything is just fine here in the treehouse. How is everything with you?" "But Mama," protested sister after Mama hung up the phone, "you told Gran that everything is fine here, and that isn't really the truth." "Oh, but it is," answered Mama. "We've got 2 fine cubs who have just learned a very important lesson about telling the truth. And what could be finer than that? Now, let's help Papa glue the lamp back together." Nobody really expects cubs to be perfect, and from time to time, Brother and Sister Bear did forget the rules. Brother ate honey in bed a couple of times. One time, Sister tracked a little mud on the clean floor, and once or twice, Brother and Sister started to play ball in the house before they remembered not to. But they never, ever again told a whooper, because trust is one thing you can't put back together once it's broken. The Berenstain Bears do the right thing. Beartown Park was a popular place and a happy place. It was always full of cubs playing on seesaws and slides, batting a ball around, or just hanging out with their friends. Sister and brother were headed for the park one lazy Saturday afternoon. They had their baseball bats and gloves, and sister had a backpack full of her favorite Berry Buddy dolls. She collected them and hoped her friends would be in the park with their dolls too. At the park, sister spotted a group of berry butter collectors and made a beeline for them. "Hey sister," someone called from the baseball field. It was Cousin Fred. "Come join our game. We need a shortstop." "Yes," agreed brother. "We need you on our team." "Sister," the other players cried. "Sister, sister." Sister liked berry buddies, but she liked baseball too. Besides, she was flattered that everyone wanted her to play. She made up her mind. Baseball it was. Sister played a fine game that afternoon. She was a talented shortstop and made some terrific plays. When the game was over, though, her mind turned to thoughts of berry buddies. She looked around for her collector friends, but they were gone. She could see them in the distance, heading for home. Disappointed, sister turned back to the field, but she noticed something lying under a bush. Pushing the leaves aside, she found a berry buddy. It was Chub Cub, a very special doll that was hard to come by. Someone must have lost it, probably sister's friend Millie, who had a Chub Cub in her collection. Millie would be upset when she found the doll missing. Sister thought of running after her friends, but they were long gone. She looked at the little Chub Cub doll. It was adorable. Brother noticed sister picking up the doll. He wondered what she was up to. "Sister," he called, "we need to go home for dinner now." Sister didn't know what to do about the lost Chub Cub. It probably did belong to Millie, but she wasn't there, and sister had to go home to dinner. "Oh well," she told Chub Cub, "I'll think about that tomorrow." She slipped the doll into her backpack with the rest of her berry buddies and joined brother. After dinner, sister and Honey played with berry buddies in the living room. Brother was reading nearby. The dolls were having a tea party to welcome Chub Cub to their group. "So nice of you to join us, Chub Cub," sister said, pretending to be Foozle Fur, her favorite. "Thank you so much," said Honey, pretending to be Chub Cub. Chub Cub seemed happy in his new home. In fact, sister was already thinking of him as part of her collection. He fit in so well. "Chub Cub?" said brother, looking up. He knew a thing or two about berry buddies. I didn't know you had a chub cub. I hear they're hard to find. Everyone wants one. Aren't you the lucky one? Sister thought. Was she the lucky one? She wondered how Millie would feel about that. It made her a little uncomfortable. Brother, she said, can I ask you a question? Sure, sis, said Brother, reading. Suppose someone found something in the park that was very special, said Sister. Would it be okay to keep it? Brother looked up. He looked at Sister. He looked at Chub Cub. I don't think so, said Brother. When you find something valuable, like money or jewelry, you're supposed to give it to a lost and found, or the police, or someone like that. Then whoever lost it can get it back. Oh, said Sister. She looked at Chub Cub and signed. Brother, said Sister. What? Asked Brother, closing his book. How do you know what's right or what's wrong if you're not really sure? She wondered. You've got to let your conscience be your guide, said Brother. My conscience? Asked Sister. She had heard about conscience, but wasn't sure what it was. Your conscience is like a small voice inside your head that tells you to do the right thing, Brother explained. The idea of a small voice inside her head seemed weird to Sister, and she looked worried. Just pretend you've got a little angel sitting on your shoulder, suggested Brother. Then, when you're not sure what to do, you can ask the angel, and the angel will whisper the answer in your ear. Sister liked that idea. She imagined an angel in a long yellow nightie sitting on her shoulder. She thought of a question. What do you think I should do? She asked the angel, quietly in her mind. You must do the right thing, the angel answered. Return Chub Cub to his rightful owner. Okay, said Sister, relieved. I will, and I'll always let my conscience be my guide. The next day, Sister returned to the park where she found her friends with their berry buddies. Did anyone lose a Chub Cub? She asked, taking it out of her backpack. My Chub Cub, said Millie. I've been looking for him everywhere. I was so worried. She took the doll and hugged it happily. Then Millie gave Sister a big hug too. Thank you, Sister, she cried. It was so nice of you to bring him back. That made Sister feel good. She had been worried she would be sad about giving up Chub Cub, but she wasn't sad at all. She was happy. Letting your conscience be your guide turned out to be a pretty good deal. Thanks, Sister said to the imaginary angel on her shoulder. No, said Millie, overhearing her. Thank you. You're welcome, said Sister with a big smile, and the angel on her shoulder smiled back with pride. The Berenstain Bears and the Homework Hassle. Mama was sitting in her favorite chair straightening up her sewing basket when she sniffed the air and said, What's that funny smell? Papa looked up from the evening paper and sampled the air. He said. I smell it too. It smells like garbage, said Mama. It smells like garbage. Papa sniffed again. Now, where do you suppose? I'll tell you where I suppose, said Mama, who had put aside her sewing basket and sniffed around the room. It's coming from Brother's backpack. And sure enough, it was. There was an old banana peel, a brown apple core, and a moldy piece of bread in Brother's backpack. But that wasn't all there was in Brother's backpack. Among the books and papers was a letter. It was old and wrinkled, and it was from his teacher. Mama read it. Then she passed it to Papa. After Papa read it, he looked across the table at Brother, who was doing his homework. At least, he was supposed to be doing his homework, and maybe he was, but it was hard to tell by looking at him. He had a card table set up in front of the television, which was showing his favorite program, The Bear Stooges. He was listening to his boombox and talking into a cell phone at the same time. There was a game bar and a bowl of popcorn on the TV. And, oh yes, there were some school books and a paper and pencil too. Excuse me, young sir, said Papa. Is this the Mars space station? I'll get back to you, Fred, said Brother. He pulled down the cell phone and turned off the boombox. I'm not quite reading you, Dad. You're not reading much of anything, according to this letter from your teacher. You may have been on Mars for all the attention you've been paying to your homework lately, said Papa. Letter? What letter? Asked Brother. This old, wrinkled letter that Mama found in your backpack, said Papa. The letter may have been old and wrinkled, but its message was clear. In my backpack? Said Brother. I thought my backpack was private. When something starts to smell like garbage, said Mama, it isn't private anymore. Sister Bear couldn't resist putting her 2 cents in. I don't see how you expect Brother to keep up with his homework. He has so many more interesting things to do. There's soccer, basketball, video games, going around like a big shot, and girls. Brother turned on Sister. Why, you little... That will be quite enough, Sister, said Papa. Why don't you go do your own homework? It's all done, said Sister. See? You call those scribbles homework, you little twerp? Shouted Brother. Now, said Mama, let's everyone calm down and try to figure out what the problem is. I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is too much homework. Vocabulary homework, arithmetic homework, science homework. It's homework, homework, homework. Every subject, every day, till it's coming out of my ears. Uh-huh, said Papa. Tell me, son, what is your homework for today? Adding and subtracting fractions and memorizing 2 stanzas of The Bear Stood on the Burning Deck. That really doesn't seem like too much homework to me, son, said Papa. Brother slumped and stared at the Bear Stooges, who were busy hitting one another on the head. I'm not hearing any sort of explanation, said Papa. I guess that's because tonight's homework isn't really the problem. The problem is that you haven't been handing in your homework on a daily basis. You haven't been taking care of business. You've been falling behind. Gee, what's gonna happen? Asked Brother, as living room phone rang. It's the BRS, said Mama. For you, Papa. Take their number and I'll call them back, said Papa. What's the BRS, Mama? Asked Sister. It's the Bears Revenue Service, said Mama. They collect taxes. What's going to happen, said Papa, is that there's not going to be any more Mars Space Station, no more boombox, no more popcorn. It's just you and your homework until you're all caught up. But that'll take forever, moaned Brother. Nevertheless, said Papa. You just don't understand, said Brother, heading for the door. Where are you going? Asked Mama. I'm just going for a walk, said Brother. As often happened when Brother had a problem and went for a walk, his feet led him to Gramps and Gran's, just down the road. Gramps and Gran could tell Brother was in trouble as soon as they opened the door. After some milk and cookies, Brother told him the whole miserable story, the tell-tale letter, the missed assignments, the no television and no games, the no anything until he caught up. And he was so far behind that he'd never catch up. Oh, you'll catch up, said Gramps. Your father did. Huh? Said Brother. Same thing happened with your dad when he was your age, said Gramps. Of course, there was no television then. No television, thought Brother. Wow, that would have been like really being on Mars. We had a radio, continued Gramps. We still have it, of course, but radio was like television then. It had great stories every evening. There was a western called Bear's Smoke, and Buck Bruin in the 25th century was sort of like Bear Trek is now. And your dad listened to them while he was doing his homework, and he was big on sports, just as you are. So he fell further and further behind. I clamped down on him just the way he's clamping down on you. Gee, thought Brother, Papa does understand. The thought that he'd gone through it all himself made Brother feel a little bit better. A stranger was meeting with Papa when Brother got home. He's from the PRS, said Sister. It has something to do with taxes. It looks like Papa hasn't been taking care of business either." The stranger was about to leave. "We'll be glad to give you a little more time, but you're going to have to catch up," he said as he left. And that's how it worked out. Brother sat on one side of the card table, and Papa sat on the other side. It was a good lesson for both of them. The Berenstain Bears lend a helping hand. Mama and Papa Bear were like most parents. They wanted the best for their cubs. Brother and sister were like most cubs. They wanted the best for themselves. And not only the best, but the biggest and the most as well. The best place in the front of the TV? Move over. No, you move over. The biggest piece of cake? I'll take that one. Oh no, I'll take that one. And the most jelly beans. I've got the most. No, I've got the most. One night, when the squabbling cubs were sound asleep, Mama lay awake worrying. She signed a big sign. "Was that a sign?" asked Papa, turning over. "Or just the wind whistling through the leaves of our treehouse?" "We've got to find a way of teaching brother and sister to mend their selfish ways," she said. "Do you have any suggestions?" But z was Papa's only suggestion. He had fallen asleep, leaving Mama alone with her thoughts. "I've got to find a way," thought Mama, "to teach them that it's just as important to help others as it is to help themselves. But how? Lecturing hasn't worked, nagging hasn't worked, and having Papa talk to them seems to do more harm than good." As Mama lay there, she thought about how cubs learn. Cubs learn by doing. They learn to walk by walking. They learn to run by running. They learn to climb by climbing. That's the answer, thought Mama. The cubs will learn to help others by helping others. But questions of who, when, and where went unanswered as she drifted off to sleep. As it happened, those questions would soon be answered. The who turned out to be Miss McGrizz, the elderly widow who just lived down the road. The when turned out to be the very next day, and the where turned out to be at the checkout line at the supermarket. "Hello, Miss McGrizz," said Mama as she emptied her cart at the checkout counter. "Hello yourself," said Miss McGrizz. "How are you and yours?" "Just fine," said Mama. "Some of mine are over there looking at the videos. Cubs, say hello to our neighbor." "Hi, Miss McGrizz," said brother and sister. The cubs were a little nervous about Miss McGrizz. She was really old, even older than Gramps and Gran, and kind of bent over. And there was that crookedy cane she used when she walked. But the real reason they were nervous about her was that their ball had gotten into her yard and knocked over some tulips. They had never apologized. When Mama and the cubs were loading their groceries into the car, Miss McGrizz came out of the supermarket pushing her little collapsible shopping cart. "Where are you going?" called Mama. "To the bus stop," she said. "The bus goes right by my house." "So does our car," said Mama. "Cubs, help Miss McGrizz into the car and put her things in the trunk." "That's very kind," said Miss McGrizz as sister helped her into the car. "My goodness," she added as brother put her things in the trunk. "It must be wonderful to have such helpful cubs." "Yes, it is," said Mama as she started the car. "Most of the time." "It certainly would be wonderful for me," said Miss McGrizz. "Oh?" said Mama. When the cubs realized they were being talked about, they leaned forward to hear better. "Yes," said Miss McGrizz. "I need a little help with something." By now, brother and sister were leaning so far forward that the seatbelts were pulling at them. Thought Mama. Maybe this is the chance I've been looking for, the chance for brother and sister to learn to help others. "I wonder," said Miss McGrizz, "and this is just a thought, but I wonder if perhaps brother and sister could find the time to help me clean up my attic. It's an awful mess. I'd pay them, of course." Brother and sister looked at each other. They didn't say anything, but their expressions spoke volumes. Help Miss McGrizz clean her attic? What about soccer? What about listening to music with Lizzie? What about playing video games with Cousin Fred? Well, I, for one, think that's a wonderful idea, said Mama. Cubs, how does next Saturday sound? She pulled the car in close to Miss Grizzly's house. Next Saturday? Said the Cubs. Then it's a deal, said Mama. Hop to it, Cubs. Let's help Miss McGrizz get her things into the house. As the Cubs helped, they saw next Saturday slipping away in the dusty haze of a miserable, boring old attic. When they were about to head home, Mama turned to Miss McGrizz. As for paying brother and sister, she said, they wouldn't think of accepting money for being nice to a neighbor. When the Cubs complained to Papa about Miss McGrizz's attic, it turned out that he was even more enthusiastic about the idea than Mama was. Cubs, I'm proud of you. I think it's great of you to volunteer to help poor old Miss McGrizz to clean her attic. But Papa, we didn't exactly volunteer, said Brother in a small voice. Nevertheless, said Papa, it's a wonderful thing you're doing. I think you may find it interesting. You never know what you might find in an old lady's attic. Careful now, said Miss McGrizz. These steps are rather rickety. It was Saturday morning, and the Cubs were following her up to the attic. When they reached the top of the steps, brother and sister just stared for a moment. Well, here we are, said Miss McGrizz. They were indeed. A strange feeling came over the Cubs as they looked at the pile of old things. It was as if they walked into the middle of her whole life. There was a dressmaker's dummy with half a dress pinned to it. There was old magazines. There was an amazing ship in a bottle. Wow, said Brother. It has all the ridging. That was my late husband's hobby, explained Miss McGrizz. What's this? Asked Sister. A radio, of course, Miss McGrizz said. A radio? Said Sister. It looks like a little cathedral. Do you think it still plays? Asked Brother. Let's plug it in and find out, said Miss McGrizz. Brother plugged it in and turned it on. Music came pouring out of the strange old radio, rock music. As the Cubs stood listening to rock music coming out of a radio that looked like a cathedral, they had the funniest feeling about how time works. It went back into the past and forward into the future. But now it was the present and they had work to do. Papa was right. Miss McGrizz's attic was kind of interesting. Miss McGrizz organized two really big boxes. One was marked throwaways and one was marked keepers. You know, said Brother, we're going to have a system if we're ever going to get this job done. Miss McGrizz agreed. Here's what they did. They sat Miss McGrizz in a comfy old chair and brought things for her to decide about. Then she looked at each thing and said keep it or chuck it. But as the morning went on, the Cubs began to worry. It seemed to Brother and Sister that she was chucking some pretty interesting things. They were beginning to get an idea. It was just before lunch when the Cubs found some really interesting things. What's this, Miss McGrizz? Asked Sister. It looks like a really old Barbie doll. A really, really old Barbie doll. That's what it is, she said. It's the original Barbie I had when I was a cub. Then Brother found something in a box of old papers. It was a baseball card. I can hardly believe my eyes, he said. This looks like a Babe Ruth rookie card. That's probably what it is, said Miss McGrizz. My late husband was a big Babe Ruth fan. After lunch in the attic, the Cubs told her their idea. There's a lot of great stuff in here, said Brother. You shouldn't throw it away. But what should I do with it? She asked. Have a garage sale, said Sister. Goodness, said old Miss McGrizz. I don't know about that. I don't have a garage. You have a yard, don't you? Said Brother. You can have a yard sale. And that's what happened. Mama and Papa pitched in and helped. The very next Saturday, Miss McGrizz had one of the most successful yard sales ever held in the neighborhood. Miss McGrizz appreciated the Cubs' help very much and wanted to pay them something, but Mama still wouldn't hear of it. She did allow them to accept gifts, however. Miss McGrizz gave Sister the original Barbie doll that she had when she was a cub, and she gave Brother the Babe Ruth rookie card. Wow, said Sister. Double wow, said Brother. The Berenstain Bears, the Forgiving Tree. It was a special day in the treehouse down a sunny dirt road deep in Bear Country. It was Brother Bear's birthday. "Happy birthday, brother!" shouted the party guests as Mama brought in the cake. Then they all sang the birthday song. "Make a wish," said Sister. Brother closed his eyes, made a wish, and blew out the candles. "Yeah!" the guests yelled, clapping and blowing out noisemakers. Papa cut the cake and everyone dug in. "What did you wish for?" asked Cousin Fred. "If I tell, it won't come true," said Brother. When they were finished eating the cake, it was time to open presents. Brother got some very nice ones: a model plane, some books, a racing car set, and a video game. Then he noticed Papa sneaking into the next room. When he came back, he was pushing a brand new bike. "Wow," said Brother excitedly. "It's exactly what I wished for." "Lucky you didn't tell Fred," said Sister. "That's a beautiful bike," said Fred, admiring it. "I do wish I had a bike like that." "Oh," said Brother without thinking. "You can borrow it any time you like." "Gee, thanks," said Fred. "Let's show out your new video game," suggested Sister. All the cubs crowded around while Brother and Sister played the new video game. They were so interested, they didn't notice anything else for a while. But then, Brother looked over at his brand new bike. It was gone! "Hey," said Brother, "where's my new bike?" "Say," said Lizzie, looking out the window, "isn't that Fred riding it?" Lizzie was right. Cousin Fred was outside riding Brother's brand new bike around the treehouse. Brother was furious. "That Fred," growled Brother. "He can't do that," and he charged outside. "Uh-oh," said Mama and Papa, running after him. But they were too late. Brother was already chasing Fred around the treehouse, yelling for him to get off his bike. He startled Fred so much that poor Fred didn't look where he was going and ran right into the mailbox. He wasn't hurt, but the bike was. The front wheel was bent and wouldn't turn. "Look what you did!" shouted Brother. "Who said you could ride my new bike?" "You did," said Fred. "You said I could borrow it any time." "I didn't mean right away," said Brother, snapping his feet. "I never even got to ride it." "Now, Brother," said Mama, "calm down. This is just a misunderstanding. Fred didn't mean any harm." "But my bike is ruined," cried Brother. "Just look at it." "It's not ruined," said Papa. "We'll take it down to the bike shop and get it fixed up as good as new." "But it won't be new," said Brother. "It will never be brand new again," and he stormed off in a huff. "Gee, I'm sorry," said Fred. He felt awful. "I never meant to hurt Brother or his new bike." "Of course not, Fred," soothed Mama. "It was just an accident." "I'm sorry Brother's so mad," said Fred. "Do you think he'll ever forgive me?" "Of course he will," said Papa. "He'll get over it in no time." But Sister wasn't so sure. She followed Brother to their backyard treehouse. "Mind if I come up?" she called. Brother didn't answer. Sister climbed the ladder and found Brother sitting, sulking at the top. "You're certainly in a good mood," said Sister. "Humph," grunted Brother. Sister noticed a faded red line drawn down the middle of the treehouse floor. "Do you remember this red line?" she asked. Brother shrugged. "We put it there a long time ago," Sister went on. "We were so mad at each other that we divided the treehouse in half. I sat on one side and you sat on the other. We sat out here being mad at each other until it started to rain and we got soaked. But that time, we couldn't even remember what we were mad about." "I guess so," said Brother. As Brother and Sister sat in their treehouse, it became cloudy and started to rain. They went back to the party and found the guests getting ready to break the piñata. It was one Papa made in his workshop. There were all kinds of candies inside, but especially licorice, because licorice was Papa's favorite. Papa held the piñata out on a broomstick. "Okay," he said, "start swinging, but be careful not to hit me." One after another, the cubs whacked the piñata until it finally broke open, spilling candy onto the floor. They all scrambled to grab some, including Papa. Brother scrambled right into Fred. In fact, they knocked heads. "Ow!" said Fred, rubbing his noggin. "Oops, sorry," said Brother. "That's okay, Brother," said Fred. "I forgive you." "I forgive you too, Fred," said Brother, feeling ashamed of himself. "I shouldn't have yelled at you about the bike. It really was just an accident." "Forget it," said Fred. And forget it they did as they gathered candy. "You know," said Papa to Mama as they watched the happy cubs, "that old tree in the backyard has seen a lot of forgiving over the years. I guess you could call it a forgiving tree." "As the Lord said," smiled Mama, "and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." "What does that mean?" asked Sister. "Just what God wants us to forgive those who hurt our feelings," said Mama. "And remember," added Papa, "though God wants us to be good, He forgives us when we do something wrong." "Well, I think that's very nice of God," said Sister. "Yes," agreed Mama and Papa, "it is." The Berenstain Bears' trouble at school. Though Brother and Sister Bear were usually very healthy, they occasionally caught cold. So when Brother came home from school one day sneezing and wheezing, Mama Bear knew just what to do. She took his temperature, tucked him into bed, and went right to the phone and called Dr. Grizzly. "Sneezing and wheezing in a temperature of 101, said Dr. Grizzly. "Keep him in bed, give him plenty of liquids, and keep him home from school until his temperature is back to normal." Mama followed the doctor's orders, and little by little, Brother's temperature began to go down. "I feel a little better," he said. "May I get out of bed?" "I'm afraid not," said Mama. "The doctor wants you to stay in bed." "But there's no reason why your stay shouldn't be as pleasant as possible." "Papa," she called, "would you bring up the portable TV?" The portable had remote control, and pretty soon Brother was having a fine time switching from one cartoon show to another. When he tired of TV, he got his comic books, and when he tired of those, Mama brought him his dinosaur collection. There was no doubt about it. Except for his sniffles, Brother Bear was having a pretty good time. So when Sister Bear brought home a folder of schoolwork for him, he hardly looked at it. He was much too busy having fun. But while he was at home having fun, his fellow students at school were hard at work. In the classroom, where Teacher Bob was teaching a new math lesson, they had learned to add, subtract, and multiply. Now they were learning to divide. On the soccer field, where Coach Broom was getting the team ready for the big game against Beartown, "Cousin Freddie," he called, "take Brother's place at forward. He's out sick." "Yes, sir," said Freddie. This was a chance he'd been waiting for. It wasn't until Brother was all better and ready to go back to school that he remembered the folder of work. "Oh well," he thought, "I'll study it on the bus." But that's where he heard about Freddie and the soccer team. He was so upset he forgot all about studying. When Coach Bruin had extra practice during early gym, Brother became even more upset. It wasn't easy watching Freddie take his place on the team. Then, when Brother got back to class, Teacher Bob said, "I certainly hope you studied that work folder, because we're going to have a quiz." "A quiz?" said Brother. "On what?" "On division, of course," said Teacher Bob as he handed out the quiz papers. Brother might have managed even then. He was good with numbers and might have worked things out if only he'd been able to concentrate. But all he could think about was Cousin Freddie out there kicking field goals while he sat on the bench. The quiz was a disaster. Not only did Brother get every problem wrong, but Teacher Bob wrote on the paper, "Very poor, must be signed by parent." Brother didn't know which was worse, the soccer mess or the quiz disaster. What would he say to Mama and Papa when they asked him about how things had gone at school? He was so busy feeling sorry for himself on the bus ride home that he didn't notice that Sister was coming down with a bad case of sneezes and wheezes. "Oh dear," said Mama when she saw Sister. "You've caught Brother's cold. Into bed with you." She and Papa were so busy tending to Sister that they forgot to ask Brother how things went at school. And he didn't tell them. And the next morning, when the school bus came, Brother didn't get on the bus. He hid in the tall grass until the bus was out of sight. The squirrels and bluebirds were puzzled. Brother was usually happy and cheerful, but not this morning. This morning he looked unhappy and angry too. "Phooey!" Brother shouted, kicking a stone. But kicking the stone reminded him of soccer, and that just made him angrier. The bluebirds took off and the squirrels scattered. "Phooey on soccer!" he shouted, stomping off through the woods. Stomp, stomp, stomp! Grasshoppers hopped. Toads stood stock still and pretended they were bumps on a log. "Phooey on school!" Brother shouted, stomping out of the woods. Pansies hid their faces. Ladybugs flew away home. "And," he said, reaching into his school bag, "phooey on division!" He had come to the top of a big hill. He took out the quiz, folded it into a paper airplane, and sailed it high into the air. The hill overlooked a swampy, overgrown bog. As Brother watched the quiz circle and scoop, he noticed something out of the corner of his eye, a familiar house at the edge of the bog. Grizzly Gramps was working on a ship model when he heard the knock. Gram was making cookies. They weren't expecting visitors, and they certainly weren't expecting Brother, especially during school hours. It didn't take long for the whole story to come out. Gramps and Gran listened quietly as Brother told them about catching cold, the folder of work, the soccer mess, the quiz disaster, the missed bus, and the paper airplane. "Come with me, young feller," said Gramps. "I want to show you something." Gramps took Brother by the hand and led him deep into the bog. "There," he said. "That's what I want to show you." It was a very old wagon sunk almost out of sight in a muddy pond. "How did it get there?" asked Brother. "It wasn't easy," said Gramps. "I went to a lot of trouble getting that old wagon into the swamp." Then, with a twinkle in his eye, he said, "Just the way you did getting in over your head at school. It happened a long time ago when I took a wrong turn, just the way you did when you didn't study that schoolwork that Teacher Bob sent home. Well, instead of admitting my mistake and backing up, I just pushed ahead until I was in so deep there was no getting out." "And you lost the wagon," said Brother. "Yep," said Gramps, "but I learned a valuable lesson. If you find yourself on the wrong road, don't just keep on going until you're in over your head. Back up and start over on the right road." "How am I going to do that?" asked Brother. "Oh, I think we can manage. But first, look over there," Gramps said, pointing. There it was, the paper airplane caught in a berry bush. "What do you think they'll say?" asked Brother later as they bounced along in Gramps' pickup. "We'll find out soon enough," said Gramps, pulling to a stop in front of the big tree house. "And let's not forget Gran's bag of cookies. They're her finest." Mama and Papa weren't exactly pleased when they heard about the big mess Brother had gotten himself into, but they didn't holler and pound the table either, not even Papa. He looked like he might be going to when he saw the paper he had to sign. Gramps had tried to flatten it out, but it was still pretty wrinkled. "What happened to this?" he asked. "Oh," said Gramps, "it just sort of got folded a bit." That's when he brought out Gran's cookies. There were 10 of them. "Let's see now," he said. "There are 5 of us counting Sister, so how many cookies do we each get?" "2, of course," said Brother, dividing them up. "Don't look now, young feller," said Gramps with a wink, "but you just divided 10 by 5. "Is that all there is to dividing?" said Brother. "That's all," said Gramps. "Come along," said Mama in a no-nonsense voice. "Where are we going?" asked Brother. "To school," Mama said as they got into the car. "But it's so late," protested Brother. "It's never too late to correct a mistake," Mama said, and off they went. Brother got to class just in time for a retest. The class hadn't done very well on the division quiz, so Teacher Bob was giving them a second chance. Brother really concentrated and did much better. And that afternoon, he got a second chance at soccer too. It was the day of the big game against Beartown, and things weren't going very well. "Brother," said Coach Bruin, "I want you to go in for Freddie. I don't think he's quite ready for first team." "Glad to help, Coach," Brother said as he ran onto the field. "You know what they say, it's never too late to correct a mistake." The Berenstain Bears show some respect. It was a beautiful summer morning, and the Bear family was going on a picnic. Mama and Papa packed up the picnic things. Brother, sister, and Honey were very excited. Grizzly, Gramps, and Gran were coming too. "I made a pot of my special wilderness stew for the picnic," said Gran. Said Gramps. "Wilderness stew, my favorite." "Yucko," muttered Brother. "Wilderness stew, not one of my favorites." Sister laughed. "What was that, Brother?" asked Mama. "Oh, nothing, Mama," said Brother. "Come on, Sis, let's pick out a good picnic spot." The family headed down the sunny dirt road to find the perfect spot for their picnic. Sister and Brother ran on ahead. "Wait for us, please, Cubs," said Mama, but Sister and Brother paid no attention. Said Mama, none too pleased. "I remember a good picnic spot right in these trees," said Papa. "We used to come here when I was in school." "That was about 100 years ago," said Sister. "It's pretty run down now. Let's find a better spot." Said Papa, none too pleased. "I know a lovely spot down by that pond," said Mama. "Papa and I came here on our first date." "That was an awful long time ago," said Brother. "It's full of mosquitoes now. Let's find a better spot." Said Mama and Papa, none too pleased. "I recall a time when Gramps and I had a nice picnic on top of Big Bear Hill," said Gran as they went on their way. "There was a lovely view, and—" "Now, Gran," interrupted Mama, "we don't want to climb all the way up Big Bear Hill. Let's find a better spot." Said Gran, none too pleased. The Bear family trudged across the countryside. They were getting hungry, hot, and tired. "I have a good idea for a picnic spot," said Gramps. "How about we all—" "Now, Gramps," interrupted Papa, "we don't need any help. We know what we're doing." Gramps stopped short. "Now just a doggone minute," he said. "It seems to me that you folks aren't showing much respect for your elders." "That's right," agreed Gran. "Brother and sister are being disrespectful to Mama and Papa, and Mama and Papa are being disrespectful to you and me," added Gramps. "You know, us old folks know a thing or two. As the Bible says, age should speak, advanced years should teach wisdom." "But Gramps," said Papa. "But me no buts, sonny," said Gramps. "A wise son heeds his father's instruction," he added, quoting the Bible again. "Sonny?" said Brother and Sister. It never occurred to them that Papa was someone's sonny. When they thought it over, Brother, Sister, Mama, and Papa realized that Gramps and Gran were right. They were being disrespectful. "We're sorry," said Brother and Sister. "We were excited about the picnic and forgot our manners. We'll be sure to show more respect from now on." "And we're sorry too," said Mama and Papa. "We know we shouldn't speak to our elders that way." "That's fine," smiled Gran. "All is forgiven. Now come along. Gramps will pick a good picnic spot for us. He's Bear Country's foremost picnic spot picker-outer." "Yes, indeedy," said Gramps. "Besides, if we leave it up to all of you, we might starve." "Where are we going, Gramps?" asked Brother and Sister as Gramps led them across the countryside. "Never fear," said Gramps. "Grizzly Gramps, the picnic spot picker-outer, is here." They marched over hill and dale, through wood and field. "Now there's the perfect picnic spot," said Gramps at last. "But Gramps," said Sister, "that's your own house." "That's right, young un," he smiled. "Didn't you ever hear of a backyard picnic?" Gramps and Papa got the grill fired up, and they added honey-grilled salmon to Gran's wilderness stew. Said Brother and Sister. "Honey-grilled salmon, that's our favorite." They raised glasses of lemonade to Grizzly Gramps, the eldest member of the family. "To Grizzly Gramps," said Papa, "Bear Country's best picnic spot picker-outer." "You know," said Gramps, as he dug into a big helping of wilderness stew, "it's about time I got a little respect around here." The end.